Brian Donovan from the Hudson Republican Committee. And joining me tonight are two of our state reps from here. Let me start over again. Hi, I'm Brian Donovan from the Hudson Republican Committee. And joining me tonight are two of our state reps from Hudson, Jordan Ulery and Russ Ober. Guys, thanks for being here. I've got some questions that we're going to discuss, but before I do that, let me go through a quick bio for both of you so that everyone can get a little bit of background information. Jordan, I'm going to start with you. So Jordan, you're in your fourth term of the member of the New Hampshire House of Representatives representing Hudson, Litchfield, and Pelham. You originally served on the Criminal Justice and Public Service Committee before being assigned to the Ways and Means Committee. Representative Ulery also served on the, or serves on the Joint Legislative Ethics Committee and is Vice Chair of the Hillsborough County Executive Board, which provides legislative oversight to the operations of the state's largest county here, obviously in Hillsborough County. Jordan is an alternate member of the Planning Board, so obviously people are very familiar with you from that role. You have a BA in Classical Political Science from St. Anselm's College. Before becoming a citizen legislator, Jordan worked as an EMS in Boston, Lowell, and at the Brymar Motorsports up in Loudon. He has covered hundreds of motorsports events as an EMT and later as one of the first paramedics in New England.
Yeah.
Jordan has worked with the VA transporting wounded and disabled veterans across New England for specialized treatment in Boston. This includes specialized VA training in the care and treatment of spinal cord injury victims. Is that something that you still do?
No, unfortunately.
Okay. And I didn't know this, but you also work as a private investigator on your own firm, providing legal investigation to attorneys across the states. That sounds interesting. And a little bit of background or personal information. Jordan has married his college girlfriend and has two children. The eldest is a gunny sergeant. Did I say that correctly? Good. Serving 3 terms in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan. You must be very proud of him. Very good.
Happy that he's home.
Is he?
Yeah.
Excellent. And your youngest is a manager with United Healthcare up in Manchester, and you've got a total of 4 grandchildren. Very good. Thanks for being here. It's a very impressive resume. And Russ, let me go over yours very quickly. On the educational side, a BA in chemistry from Syracuse University, BA in German studies in University of Maryland, and an MA in mathematics from Central Michigan University. Military education, Air Command and Staff College, Industrial College of the Armed Forces, in the Air War College. In military service, which is very impressive, 22 years in the United States Air Force, retired as a lieutenant colonel, 265 combat missions in Southeast Asia. That's very impressive. Silver Star for heroism in San Tay prison raid, one of the few New Hampshire veterans with the Silver Star. So congratulations on that. And thank you for your service to our country. I didn't know this, but you were a teacher at Alvern for 17 years, and you aided in the development of the New Hampshire math test for 10th graders. So you're serving your 4th term up in Concord. You're clerk of the Labor Committee, chaired several subcommittees, and 2 years on the Committee for Safety to reduce the prison population, chaired 2 study committees this season, and you're currently clerk for the on the Ways and Means Committee. And most folks know that obviously you're married to Lynn Ober, another state reps here from Hudson, and let's see, have volunteered and participated in a variety of community activities. You're a member of the VFW, have worked for the Hudson Old Home Days, worked on the Chips Halloween Party for Hudson Youth, belonged to the Hudson Historical Society, and belonged to the MOAA, and supported and volunteered with a variety of youth activities while working at Alvern High School. And you're an avid runner, so thank you very much for being here as well. Now, one of the things that we talked about, and the reason why we have both of you here, obviously you're on the Ways and Means Committee, so we really want to kind of focus on that point of view primarily. So, and one of the things, obviously, we know that in this recent cycle, when the Republicans took control of the House, we have a Republican majority. A lot of interesting and beneficial changes, obviously, in the tax area. Just as a point of comparison, comparing that to the environment previously, what do you see as a difference, Jordan, now as far as the activity in the Ways and Means Committee?
The way we derived the budget, the purpose of Ways and Means under the Republican administration is to find out what revenues are coming in from the taxes and fees that the state imposes upon its residents. Previously, Ways and Means meant how much money could we get from the citizens of New Hampshire. So it was the technique in which we designed the budget. Mm-hmm. First, the Republican majority this year, looked at what monies were coming in and from where, and what was going to be the bottom line, what was going to be the lowest amount to the highest amount that would come in. And then we designed our budget that way, which is substantially different. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And the budget this year was, significantly less money than we had in previous years as well. So,
well, that was because we started with revenue and not with what the Finance Committee said, this is how much we need. Mm-hmm. And then last time, Ways and Means was required to come up with how much they needed. This time, we told them how much we can get, budget on that basis. An entirely different setup.
Right. And then as far as, now, Russ, you've been on the committee for how many years?
4.
4. So other than that, any other changes, would you say, or is that really the primary difference as far as looking back?
The biggest change we had this time around was the fact that there are many, many freshmen on the Ways and Means Committee, which is a little unusual. Usually they have people that have been in the House for a few years, understand what's going on. And we have, I think, a particularly good group of freshmen who really understand what revenues are, what fees are, how they can be reduced, and how to work the system. I think they're doing a great job.
Now, do you think that's because a lot of the focus in 2010 in the last election, people were really geared up towards the taxes, the economy here in New Hampshire and so forth? So was that a result of Speaker O'Brien trying to get some of those newer folks involved with the committee, do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I think it was. Not only that, but the group that we have in here are composed of businessmen or individuals who have been involved in designing budgets, either for large corporations or within the military, where they've done work that deals with the budget and then living within the budget, which is the last time we had a couple of tax people, we had some attorneys, we had a large number of individuals that had, I'll use the term special interests that they wish to promote, and they did. And now we're looking at digging out from a rather serious deficit.
Sure. Well, that's a great way to put it, because most people in their business lives, you get involved with the budgeting process, at some point, and obviously it's not a matter of what you want to spend. You're looking at how much revenue can you anticipate coming in, and then planning your business accordingly, obviously. So obviously that is a change. Now, I know that you both have legislation that you've submitted recently or in the area of taxes. So, Jordan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your particular legislation?
Well, there's a couple of pieces of legislation that I put forward. Interestingly, one of them never made it to Ways and Means, and the other one did. I'll start with the one that went to Ways and Means, which is what we call a CACR. It's a Constitutional Amendment Concurrent Resolution. That's going to hopefully go before the voters. Right now it's waiting for a committee of conference because the Senate version and the House versions don't agree. But basically what this CACR was trying to do is limit the growth of government by saying if we're going to increase the tax for whatever reason, there may be a reason that's necessary, well then the majority of the people representing the population of New Hampshire should say, yes, it's necessary. That's CACR 6.
Right. And so it's not guaranteed it's going to be on the ballot in November. That's kind of what you're saying?
That's true. We have until the last day of June to come up with that. But the Senate has another version that is more, some of the viewers may know what Tabor is. It's got some of that attached to it. And they have their point of view. And the House has its point of view.
Yeah. Well, as a voter, you look at it, why not just, what's the hesitation to putting it in front of the people? Let the people of New Hampshire decide if we want a supermajority to increase taxes. I think it's a great idea. But, so hopefully it'll...
It's not even it's not a huge supermajority. Right. It's 3/5, which is something that the House does all the time for a large number of things.
Right, right. So, if anybody that's watching this wants to, contact, whether it's their state senator, in our case it would be Sharon Carson, or is there anything that you would suggest folks do in that
Well,
regard?
contacting the senators and expressing to them, it would be both Sharon Carson, Mr. DeBlois, and I believe it's the former sheriff over in the Pelham side, would be the ones to contact and discuss the issue with.
Yeah, that's good to know.
But I think this is a solid piece of legislation. It passed the House on a voice vote, so I would think that was because there were several from the other party that didn't want to let it go to a roll call.
Yeah.
They wanted to vote for it, but we're quite willing to have their name recorded.
That's interesting.
The other bill I put forward is more ambitious. That's a United States constitutional amendment to demand a balanced budget. If New Hampshire passes this, we'll be the 19th state to do so. 27 states are required to force a limited constitutional convention, something that we've done before. And the idea here is not necessarily to force a constitutional amendment, but to force Congress to act. And they will. That one also passed with bipartisan support.
So the status of that would be?
It has to go, it was already sent over to the Senate. The Senate has not yet acted on it.
Okay. And you would expect them to act sometime during this?
In the next several weeks, yeah.
Okay, that's good. And Russ, now I know you've got a piece of legislation that you're proposing as well?
Well, I've co-sponsored. I'm in small pieces here. Some legislation to change the threshold for the business enterprise tax. As some of the people may know, if you're in business and you make so much money, you have to pay a business enterprise tax. If you make a profit, you have to pay the business profits tax. So what this bill does is raise the threshold where you'll have to pay the business enterprise tax. Now it is presently, let me check these numbers, it's presently $150,000 gross business, and if we raise it to $200,000, that means if you make up to that $200,000, you need not pay business enterprise tax. Now those of us that are promoting this, hope that for the very small businesses who are $170,000, $80,000 and are paying that tax, it's not that much, but it's still a tax, will avoid that tax, expand their business, hire people, and will have more taxes because they will make enough money to be over the new threshold. Now that bill has passed the House. It's going to the Senate Ways and Means Committee on the 10th of this month. 145 in the Senate building 100, room 100, if you'd care to attend.
Okay.
That's the big one I like. It's a small step, and if we can reduce the taxes little by little, we will entice business to come into the state.
Now, on the business enterprise tax, that's not, and there's a business enterprise tax and then there's a business profit tax. So that's not necessarily taxing their profits. I mean, they might not be profitable, but still would have to pay a business enterprise tax.
That's correct. If you're in business, and right now if you make or you have an adjusted number of over $150,000, you pay 0.75% of that money to the state.
Right.
We're raising that threshold so that you can make more money or have more business and not have to pay. The business profits tax is where we make almost all of our money.
Right.
Because whatever profit you make, we take 8.5%. One of my goals, and I'm sure Jordan's the same way, we'd like to reduce that. We can reduce it little by little. And as has been said, if we had approved gambling, it would be halved. So businesses would be flocking to the state.
Right.
Maybe next time.
Right.
New Hampshire's business taxes place it at the highest,
Right.
or very close to the highest of all of the state business taxes.
Yeah.
Right.
Why?
Well, yeah, that's, I think the last thing I saw, we were like ranked 46th as far as our, economic or tax environment
Business
for business.
climate.
Yeah, the
I-
business climate is
I
not
believe
as
you're
good.
referring to rich states, poor states, aren't that 46 ranking? And the new edition's coming out 2 weeks. See if things have changed.
Yeah, let's hope so. Now, one of the things that I got a lot of discussion last year was the change to the cigarette tax and lowering that tax. What are we seeing right now as far as the revenue? I know it's still kind of early, but what are some of the results that we're seeing from that, would you say?
I'm sure both of us voted to reduce that tax because we would like to get more people who are going to smoke into this state to buy our cigarettes and thereby be taxed. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your outlook, nationwide, the number of smokers is going down every single year, which means that no matter where you put the tax, you're going to make less money because fewer people are buying cigarettes. Now, we've not had a year yet to determine whether that's going to come out. The latest numbers I have seen is it's pretty close. Yes, we're a little behind, but who knows what will happen in the next 3 months. We may end up, and we're talking about a biennium. There's another year to go by yet to determine, was this right or not? I personally believe it was, because I think we're missing out in calculating in the amount of, as we call it, bread, beer, and bologna that the people buy that are coming up here to buy their cigarettes.
Right.
They're also buying other products, which helps our companies.
This is one of the things that we built into that bill because it expires. It has a sunset clause at the end of the next year. As Russ told us, the number of people buying cigarettes is down. We also have to take into consideration the spread or the differential between the cost of cigarettes in Maine, Massachusetts, and Vermont, and the cost of cigarettes in New Hampshire. Right now, it's small. When it's large, we get the sales. When it's small, why do I have to go to Hudson?
Well, price of gas too, why would you drive, when gas is nearing $4, that has an impact too.
Now, if we have a good summer, we do not have a good winter.
That's true.
But if we have a good summer, then we should probably do all right. But again, the key issue is you have fewer smokers, which is both good and bad.
Sure. Yep. Right. Another question. The Tax Foundation, which is a national organization, says that New Hampshire needs a broad-based tax. Are broad-based taxes something that's discussed in the committee, Ways and Means Committee, and what's your thought on that? Russ, I'll ask you first.
It's seldom discussed, at least in the Republican end, because none of us believe in a broad-based tax. My contention is the only reason people want that is so that they can have more money to build bigger state government. My contention is the fewer taxes, fees, and the smaller the revenue we have, the smaller the state government will be, which is, to me, the ideal way to do things, because I don't like the government messing in my life.
Sure.
Broad taxes are pushed forward by the Fair Tax Coalition very frequently. As a matter of fact, I believe we had a presentation by them again this year. They're always out there, and they're asking for a fair tax. They're not, well, as you remember the comment I made, no tax is fair. A tax is a tax, period. And in New Hampshire, we have fees and taxes that are equivalently the same. The people that push this forward are keeping saying, well, we have to tax the rich and give it to the people who, well, why don't we help the people that aren't making as much get a job where they can go forward? We heard that kind of rhetoric coming out of the political campaigns. Even today, it was stated. No, don't let the government do it for you. You can do it.
Sure. Sure. Well, the Ways and Means Committee, I mean, it's a term that, or title that everybody has heard of. You know, obviously there's on the state level, on the national level, there's a Ways and Means Committee down in Washington as well. But just for those folks that, you know, might not know exactly what that really means, you know, Russ, Ways and Means, what exactly are the responsibility of the committee? How many members are on that? And, you know, just a little bit of background on the committee, maybe?
It's a pretty large committee. We have 21 members at the moment. The idea is to determine how much revenue the state is getting or will get. Actually, it's all predictions over the next 2 years from whatever taxes and fees we have. And if we look at all the places where taxes and fees are coming from, and we make estimates, and frankly they're guesses based on past performance or what people know or what the world is like, to say this is how much we expect we will get from this particular tax. The business taxes are very heavy in this state. So we think maybe in the next year we'll get this many, and the next year we'll get this many. So that's our estimate. That's basically what we do. That's the main job of Ways and Means, is to estimate what the revenues will be for the biennium coming, which is strictly anybody's guess sometimes. Although I must say the Republicans have done a lot better than the Democrats in terms of guessing about how much we're going to have for revenue. And that's what we talk about right now. We're pretty close to what we estimated we would have, and we've got 3 months to go in this year, and we're going to be very close, which is in vast contrast to the last year where they said, this is what we're going to spend, find it. And they couldn't find it because it wasn't there. And now we're in pretty good shape. But that's Ways and Means. We make estimates on how much revenue the state is going to have for their budget. Now, there are other minor details of fees going up and down, taxes, but I think that's the main job. Wouldn't you say that's our...
Yeah, that's the first part of the first year of a biennium.
Yeah.
Is the first few months. When I first ran, they said you'd be up there 1 day a week. Then I found out that if you're on Ways and Means, you're talking about 4 and 5 days a week, listening to the agencies tell you what they want to spend and telling them you can't have it. Russ indicated that one of the other things we had to deal with was fees. One of the popular sayings is the state motto is live, pay fees, and die. This helps spread out, which is a good thing, the tax base. Because the more people that are paying a small amount, the easier it is on the individual paying it, and the better source of income total. But we do have a major responsibility with several of the agencies to make sure that they don't charge outrageous fees. We had a fight with agriculture, Department of Agriculture. You may take a look at the new stickers that are on your gas meters. And this was open, they had destroyed the business of inspecting them.
Right.
And we got that put back in this year. So that people got jobs, and you're still getting inaccurate reading on your gas pump.
Well, I remember, I think Senator Sharon Carson was involved with that as well. I remember her mentioning that. And you brought up a good point as well, because the budget's on a 2-year budget cycle. So I would think the first part of your focus, as you mentioned, you're looking at the revenues to determine what you can spend. Now, this year, Jordan, you know, what's the focus of the committee? Are they looking forward? What are, you know, some of the things, legislation that's coming down the road that you're looking at, other than the 2 that you had mentioned that you submitted?
Well, we're still following through with the House bills. Both of our pieces of legislation need to go through the Senate, and we need to deal with them. The Senate, likewise, has sent over to us just last Thursday a bunch of bills. And we will be getting those, and we will be analyzing those and seeing whether that particular type of thing that they send over is good. The advantage is that money bills have to originate in the House. The most representative body originates the money bills. The Senate comes over with some tweaking and some ideas about charging for this and charging for that, and we're going to take a look at those bills and give them a thorough examination. with a lot more time than they have available on the other body.
I would say also that a really worst case scenario is if at the end of this year, in the first 2 weeks in July, we discover that the revenues are so bad that we could be in debt millions of dollars going through the next year. Unfortunately, one of our jobs would then be to figure out how to get some more revenue, regardless of what it takes. It might not be to our liking. But if things were not as good as we thought they were going to be, our job would be to get more money to balance the budget, as it were, or at least come close.
Well, we had to do that under the last two administrations. We had special sessions to run special bills, to have
Get
special taxes.
Now, was that because of the economic climate, the revenue wasn't coming in, or was that a spending issue that they decided to spend more money? Or
The answer to that is yes, and I don't mean to be flip. They decided to spend more money than was coming in, and as a result, more money had to come in.
Sure. Well, absolutely. You know, a few weeks back, we had a program with Corey Lewandowski from the Americans for Prosperity Foundation. And, you know, like a lot of the kind of rating companies or rating groups out there, both you guys rated very well on their economic viewpoint. They think they basically said that you know, they had about 10 pieces of legislation, really kind of tax, you know, economy or economic oriented. And Russ, you had an A+ rating, and Jordan, you had an A. And we're actually going to show the readers the little chart that we had prepared before. So that obviously, you know, you guys are doing a great job as far as your voting is concerned, as it relates to not only taxes but economics in general. So that's a you know, great job, and keep that up. Obviously, there's the election coming up. Now, you're both planning on running again in November, I take it. So because of the fact that you've got the experience, and I think we're doing a great job as far as the Republican legislature is concerned, as far as taxes, lowering the taxes, and also come to grips on the spending side of it. So if you wanted to, you know, somebody asked you, Jordan, you know, why would they want to vote for you again in November, what would you say?
I actually enjoy Ways and Means. I enjoy working up in Concord. And if you want someone up there that pays attention to the bills, pays attention to the process, which is the way in which bills go through, and who can deal with both sides. As I indicated, several of the bills that I got through thus far had bipartisan support in a very, very partisan environment. Then you want someone that can work that way, which may be the reason I got an A instead of an A+. Of course, it depends upon what the bill is and what the language of the bill is. If you want someone who's willing to put the time in and willing to represent the people, I'm willing to do that, both in the towns as it appears right now. It'll be Hudson and Pelham, and I'm looking forward to continuing that relationship with those two towns.
Yep, that's good. And how about you?
Yeah, I would say that my view is take a look at my voting record and see what you like and what you don't like. There may well be some votes that I made that you don't care for. There may be some votes that you say, oh, that is really great. My goal would be to be back on Ways and Means, and I would love to be able to reduce the two main business taxes. This, of course, as I mentioned, requires finance to reduce their spending, because if we have less revenue, you can spend less on the things that you might like to have. But I would like to think that most of the people in the towns that we represent would like to have their businesses prosper. And it's clear that the fewer taxes they have to pay, the better off they are in terms of business. And I would like to think if we can reduce, particularly the business profits tax, people will have incentive to make more money, because if I make more money, I get to keep more of it.
Sure.
Which means more people will be working, more people will be paying taxes, so the revenue doesn't actually suffer all that much. I'm very much in favor of small government and reduce taxes. So if that's what you like, vote for me.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I think you guys do a great job. I think actually, in general, if you look at all of the Hudson reps, we've
a good group.
at least on on the Americans for Prosperity. Everyone, the amount that we have in either A or A+ is outstanding. So we're very fortunate. Keep up the great job. I appreciate you guys coming in and spending some time with us and telling us a little bit more about the ways and means and some of the bills that you've introduced. I'd like to thank everyone here at Hudson Cable TV for helping us out. They always do a great job. And today we have Michael Keefe, Scott Pearson, Rick Lavasser, and Tom Rourke. And guys, thanks a lot for your help. And thank you for watching.